Alright, so we're ready to make the big moves. This is the water pump gasket. Can you reuse it? Yeah, probably, I guess, but again, nope, it's a no for me. The next moves, the things I wanted to do was to replace the thermostat in the front, as well as the rear water valve in the back. So what I'm going to do for that is take off the intake manifold. I'll take off the intake manifold for better access. Then I'll replace it. Okay. Okay, here we are. I'm going to start with the front or the back. Let's go to the front. So here is the water pump, and the thermostat is up here. It is on the filler neck. So let's get closer and zoom in. $12mm bolts. There it is. This is the thermostat. The back side is pretty plain. Nothing much to write home about over there. I'm going to clean it up. For plastic, I usually prefer to not spray the B12 chem tool, the curb cleaner. What I end up using is WD-40 sometimes. Just trying to even that out. Okay, that's mostly clean. Don't particularly like how it looks on the outside. You notice that the upper side has a little bit of discoloration. That means that this piece of plastic is at risk of damage, and I got something to show you. Hang tight. I do have a spare or two. This one looks a little better on the outside, but people have started making metal parts. So this one here should be a direct fit, should work just like that. However, since this is a vehicle that somebody else is going to use, this is going to be testing. I'd rather only install something that's tried and tested on a customer's car, so to say, before I put it on there. It looks good and all that, but before committing to it, I'd rather test it on my own vehicle first. Then I can put it out there and say, hey, this works, go for it. So anyway, we'll go back to this and talk about the process of replacing the thermostat. I wiped the other one that had the rust looking interior, and I'm gonna let them dry for a while, and then at the end of the day I'll just pick whichever one looks good, whichever one looks better. That versus that. Oh. Yeah, this doesn't look too pretty, does it? Okay, we'll see. Okay, now this is the front thermostat, the main thermostat. You could just pull, but sometimes it gives me a little bit of trouble, and I end up having to use something like a screwdriver. Is it absolutely necessary that you replace your thermostat? Not I wouldn't say yeah, but again, while you have everything out, it's also rather simple to get to, by the way, but I just find it to be a pretty good preventive maintenance step. And these cars don't really have problems with thermostats either, so I am pretty sure you can keep using your old one with no problems. You can see that the rubber boot in here kind of started coming out on this side. I don't know what that means, but I know it's flat on one side. So I'm not scraping too hard, but just want to make sure there's no gunk over here. Alright, we are done. This is the old one. We're going to install the new one, and the part number is 21200 1LA 1A. So let's open the box. Here it is. Looks just slightly different than the other one. Both of them do say Nissan on there. 82 degrees Celsius, 82 degrees Celsius. This one is stamped, or rather the numbers are etched in there. It's just printed on. What else do we see? It tells you top over here. This one does not, but I do know this, and I'll tell you. When it comes to the front water pump, this is what you should align to. Do you see this notch over here? Sorry, why do I keep calling it a water pump? It is not a water pump, it's a thermostat. You should align it to this notch over here at the top, if you can see it on the housing. So, what I need to do, and what I like to do in this case, Vaseline. I apply that around the perimeter of this. Some manufacturers will sell you a thermostat without this gasket, but Nissan sells you the thermostat with a gasket, but it can also sell you the gasket separately. So, suppose just pick your poison in this case. Okay, so now that that's up, I did not go through the trouble of boiling this to make sure it opened up. I might do that to the old one in case I want a spare, but these things are about, is it even 30 bucks? Maybe 30 bucks for the front one, 35. So I don't play with those. Although you could say, well, if it's that cheap, you know, or if it's that expensive, however you look at it, why not boil it just to make sure it works? Again, no concerns using Nissan OEM thermostats, and you should always use OEM thermostats. The cars seem to be very picky on that. So you aim for this to be right at 12 o'clock. You have a little bit of an allowance. From the top, you have 10 degrees either side. Okay, so you have a 20 degree span where you could align it, but right now I'm going for 12 o'clock. And it's important that the jiggle valve is all the way at top, because when you have air pockets, you want your air to be able to escape from the top, and that's what the jiggle valve does here. If air does not escape, if you have this thing upside down, air is never going to escape, and air is it's bad when you need it to be bad, and it's good when you need it to be good. But air is an insulator, and as an insulator, what's going to happen is it's going to prevent the thermostat element from actually getting heat the way it's supposed to. So, well, I guess that's that. Suppose these ears are catching over here. Yeah. Well, yeah. So I guess that makes the decision, or makes the installation even easier on your part, right? Just get the thermostat, have this thing on the pre-12 o'clock side, and then just rotate it all the way to the end, and it's going to catch itself. I use Vaseline because it's supposed to also help me keep this thing over there, keep it mounted. And now I'm going to look at these two, decide whichever one looks better to me. I think this one looks like it's going to last a little longer, just because it doesn't have the damage already. I'm a little concerned because of the chewing. It looks like something scraped over here. Don't know what that's about. But I think in general it just looks like it's in better shape than the other one. And what's the risk? The risk is that this thing ends up getting corroded and then just breaks or shatters. It looks good on the inside. Let's make this decision real quick. What am I concerned here? That once you put the hose, that it will not have a very good seal. But I think I'll be fine with it. I'd rather have this than this one here. And part of the reason I'm talking about this is you want to make sure plastic might eventually, I think everything, so nothing lasts forever, right? But plastic, in this case, you have to make sure, and aluminum up here too, you can't really see the fillet neck, but you want to make sure you have the right chemicals in your coolant system. You want to make sure you have the right mixture, 50-50 for most places. I know some climates with these cars call for a different ratio, but 50-50 distilled water and coolant mix. Okay. I'm looking on this other side just to make sure that the seal does not jump off and I end up installing it cocked. Pretty much all the way to the bottom, but I have my cheat sheet over here which is going to tell me that my thermostat is going to need to be tightened to, I'm going to say 16 foot-pounds. Nope, yeah, 13 to 16 foot-pounds for the thermostat housing. So let's do that. And there you go. There's your thermostat housing, all buttoned up. When it comes to the rear, this is where the water valve is located, also known as, well, at least I call it that, the rear thermostat. So right here, this is what you want to get to. Again, with the intake installed, you could get to it, but just more convenient for me to show you what I'm doing right now. So I'll mount the camera and let's zoom in. So here, I know this water fitting is kind of in the way, but we'll be able to work around it and still show you decent video. So this one takes 12mm bolts as well. And it does seem like nothing really can get to it. So I explained some time back that I left these bolts untightened when I was installing the whole water pipe, and I gave the reason as that I would need to get them out. Yeah, so see this bolt here? That's part of the housing as well. And I cannot get to it with this bolt installed. So you have to remove the down bolt first to be able to get this one. And it's rather loose, so I guess I had loosened it at some point. Alright, it's ready. So just pull this. Usually they move. Might need to be given a little whack. Wow. There you go. So it took a little bit of massaging to get it out. Look at that. Obviously, I'm going to clean this. Does it need scraping? I wouldn't say necessarily. But I will give it some chem tool. Well, let me remove this. This seal here, this is a new one. I put it there. I know it's new. It feels so at home. It doesn't want to come out. Okay, great. So here, just clean this, make sure everything's good. I'll scrape it though. I'll try. Okay. So then you have the rear water valve. You'll notice, well, you might, I don't know if the scale translates, but it is smaller than the front one. Here's a front thermostat and here's the rear one. What I usually do for that, just like the front one, you could try to pull it by hand. It might come out, but usually I end up having to do this. Okay. Remove it in a non-destructive manner in case you have to back up and reinstall it. So here it is. This is how they compare. This is a smaller one. This is the rear one. And all this does, if I remember correctly, this one evens out the water from the heads or to the heads. From the block into the general system, basically. Okay, so I'll remove this. I have a replacement, and the part number is 21230-6N20A. I'll remove them and compare them, or rather I'll remove it and compare them. They look similar, but, well, no buts. This should be 95 degrees. Yeah, 95 degrees Celsius. 95 degrees Celsius on this one as well. And this one, unlike the front one, is also etched into the metal body. So this one looks very similar, except the rubber boot is pretty much missing from this one. On the old one, it doesn't really have one. Maybe it was designed without one in mind, but this is what they sold me. That's what I'll install. It doesn't seem like there's much work for cleanup over here, which is good. I'm gonna go ahead and clean the bottom again because I've messed with that mating surface of blown dust onto it and all that. A lot of things have happened. So I'll get some air, blow the top first, then the bottom. Okay, we are ready to install this thing. So for this, first thing I did is I had the O-ring, brand new O-ring. Can't remember the part number because I already talked about it earlier. I will get some Vaseline on it and around it. I'm not trying to make it slippery or anything, just enough to prevent friction. I'm gonna seat it down. There you go, it is flat. Remember how much trouble I had picking it up? Yeah. Okay, now here, this is good. I'm gonna get some Vaseline around it as well, but there's something I needed to talk about. Let me get a little closer. So remember with the front thermostat we had a jiggle valve, the little needle. Let me pull it out and show it. Here, this is the jiggle valve, this little pin thing. All right, here we do not have one. It's just a hole, and then what it tells you is that this should be, it's not like the hole should be at the top. No, you have an arrow here, and I'm having a little bit of a hard time capturing this, but you have an arrow here. So what you should do is install it in such a way that the arrow is facing up. That means you're going to install it with this line being at 12 and 6 o'clock, right? Unlike the other one where it was about the hole being at the very top. Makes sense? Slight difference in the front and the rear valve, right? And of course you want to install your stuff correctly so that it operates as intended. Okay, so here we go. Get some Vaseline. then install that. Here you have some form of a mating mark. Oh, don't break it, man. This here, I don't know if you can see this notch over here, but there's a notch, and that should help you get aligned to 12 o'clock. So that's what I'm going for. And I can see that arrow, the one I was talking about, the arrow is straight up, again at 12 and 6 o'clock. So likewise, you do have an allowance here. You have 10 degrees either direction, so you have a 20-degree play in there, which is not that much really, but still some allowance. So what I do is just make sure this is as close as possible to 12 o'clock. Would someone say I'm a perfectionist? Maybe sometimes. Just do it right the first time, you know. This has been installed. It is sitting upright, and I'm going to install this one here, the housing now. 4 bolts should get it in. First set, I mean, I'll just put these to keep it down there. I'll pull one actually, because I can't do the other one yet. Then these top bolts. See what I was talking about? This cannot even go in. It's smack in the way. And I don't think you can do it the other way, that install this first then the other one. No. So there you go. I'm looking to make sure that I'm still well aligned, and yes, the answer is yes. So I'm gonna get the torque wrench again and then just get the torque to spec. Now let's get the down bolts. That's good. All done.